Civilians in Gaza are being bombed on a daily basis, and we know because much of it is being recorded and posted on social media. These citizen journalists are opening the world's eyes to the atrocities of war. Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, Israel can't hide the pain and suffering caused by its incursion because brave Gazans are documenting the violence. Bisan Auda is one of them, harnessing social media to show the realities of life under bombardment. This is her story.
Hi everyone, this is Bisan from Gaza, and I've been recording and documenting everything happening with us since the day one of the escalation. I don't feel that I really want to be killed without any voice, without telling the world what we have been suffering from before being killed. How? By using mobile, just my mobile. I don't have anything else. I lost my equipment and it was destroyed. It was bombed by the Israeli airstrike.
Hundreds of thousands of people are in tents. They don't have any place to go or in the streets. I'm one of them. It's cold, it's windy, it's raining.
I'm documenting everything with my mobile. Am I scared? Yes. Who is not scared? I mean, we're facing a death machine killing us with every single way that they can kill us with. And I'm really scared. Am I protected? Do I have anything to secure myself? No. And I have international protection also. As a journalist, we don't have it. Many journalists were killed during documenting what is happening.
So, a narrative is talking about bombing the terrorists' homes. So let's see how a terrorist home is looking like.
So what is my message? My message is that the Palestinian people is one of the most incredible, beautiful, kind and brave people in the whole world, and that we've been sacrificing for 75 years to bring justice and to prove that we are people who deserve to live in dignity, in peaceful life, in our homes with our families.
Well, let's meet our guests from Seattle in the United States. We have Ramzy Baroud, a Palestinian journalist and editor of the Palestine Chronicle. Yara Hamway, assistant editor at Storyful, joins me from Cork in Ireland. And here in the studio with me, the Palestinian analyst, writer and commentator, Yousef Alhelou. Yousef, great to see you again. Last time you were on Roundtable, you were telling me about your family in Gaza. Just give us an update, please.
Yeah, again, I lost contact with my family due to the internet problem and telecommunication lines. Last time I spoke to them 3 days ago, and they were hesitant whether to stay or to leave Gaza, but they said they would rather stay in the house. So we live in the dark. We don't know the fate of many other people, not only my family. It's a very sad reality that we are cut off from the rest of the world.
I want to show our viewers some footage that you filmed in Gaza and posted to your social media accounts. How do you feel seeing that footage and now thinking about Gaza and its people and the beauty that has been destroyed?
I feel absolutely devastated that the beauty of Gaza is vanished. And whenever I need to see Gaza again, I have to look at those footages that I managed to document during my 2 months visit to Gaza, just only 2 months before this genocidal war. But I can tell you that the people of Gaza will never raise the white flag. They will rebuild Gaza again. Israel is doing its best to kill any chance of life in Gaza, to drive the population and continue its ethnic cleansing. Gaza is a small piece of land with the Mediterranean. It is considered the most densely populated area on the planet. It has so many resorts before, restaurants, cafes, malls and stuff. People are resilient. People defy all odds. And I wanted to portray the positive side of Gaza. Unfortunately, that is destroyed and vanished. And Israel is doing its best in order to drive the population outside Gaza, but people say we are staying.
Ramzy, I'll come to you. How important is it that we have journalists on the ground, citizen journalists, people recording images, getting them out, and showing the world what is happening to the people of Gaza?
Well, it's absolutely critical. I mean, Israel has done everything in its power to prevent the Palestinian voice from reaching the rest of the world. I mean, this is why the whole mainstream media's influence and control has been going on for many years, trying to create a buffer between the truth in Gaza and the rest of Palestine, for that matter, and the rest of the world. And if it were not for these courageous journalists, scores of whom have been killed and wounded in recent weeks, if it were not for them, we would know very little, if anything at all, from Gaza. So they are paying for their lives in order for us to know the truth. And without that truth, we cannot mobilize, we cannot take action, we can't try to hold Israeli war criminals accountable for this genocide. They are doing us, Palestine, the whole of humanity, a great favor. And of course, it comes at the expense of their blood and sacrifices.
And Ramzy, this is very important as well going forward, that everything is documented, evidence of war crimes is filmed, and this is incontrovertible proof, if it were ever needed in a court of law, that this is what Israel has done.
I'm absolutely at awe and of the power of my people. I mean, I grew up in a refugee camp in Gaza. I remember at the age of 17 running from one hospital to another, including the Baptist hospital in Gaza City, trying to report on every little thing that happened in our refugee camps at the time. But when I see this generation that speaks languages, communicates with so much power, with so much confidence, I see children standing by the bodies of their families at hospitals, yet somehow standing there and communicating a clear message. In tears, yes, broken, yes, but still with clarity. They are so keen on the world to understand and appreciate their immense suffering. And I think this generation is going and is already the generation that is helping us cancel, and I mean that, cancel the power of an influence on mainstream corporate media that has controlled the narrative on Gaza and Palestine for such a long time. It's these kids, these young teenagers, these young bloggers and journalists who are dying every single day. These are the ones who ultimately ended up being the ones who made all the difference in terms of telling the Palestinian story and conveying the narrative. It should have always been conveyed since the beginning of this so-called conflict.
Yara, you work for a media organisation. How important is it, the material we're seeing being filmed and shared and documented and got out of Gaza?
It's very important. We're seeing, videos that show the immediate aftermath of strikes when they're reported. We're seeing videos of people in refugee camps in tents. When it's raining, when we see the heavy rain, we see the suffering that people are going through. And as Ramzy said, it's very critical that these people on the ground get their videos out there. It's a very unique situation where a lot of the people we are relying on for videos are journalists, as Ramzy said, and they're using social media to get their message out there. They're facing all of these troubles, as Yousef mentioned, of the internet being cut off, communication blackouts. People are climbing to the tops of buildings to be able to send a text or upload a video. And we see that every day. And that's in addition to the risk to their lives. As Ramzy mentioned, the Committee to Protect Journalists said this month was the deadliest month for journalists since 1992, when they started keeping records. 53 journalists have been killed in Gaza, according to the Palestinian Journalist Syndicate. So it is a very courageous act to go out there and to film these videos and to get them out there to the rest of the world to see. It's very, very important.
And just on that point, from an educational perspective, getting these videos on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, I mean, millions and millions of people worldwide are seeing for themselves what is being done to the people of Gaza.
Yes, it's true. And if I can also mention a specific person, we worked with a journalist in Gaza called Hassouna Slayim. One of his videos was a video of the aftermath of a strike. And it was of two children looking for their brother. And in the video, you can see him trying to help, reunite these children with their brother. And this video was viewed millions of times, like you said, as have other videos. And he was killed, sadly, on Saturday. Instead of, getting married, he was engaged. He was due to be married this month. His family and his fiance gathered to say goodbye to him, and his fellow journalists as well. They were there to support each other through this, knowing that could also be them. It takes immense bravery, and it's important to recognize that when we see these videos on TV or on social media, the people behind them and the courage it takes for them to go out there and the risk that they're going through.
Yousef, this material is extremely powerful, isn't it? The whole world is looking on from the comfort of their homes in safety, horrified by what they're seeing, and yet the extraordinary resilience of the Palestinian people shines through.
Yes, Israel's Hasbara campaign will never succeed in beautifying the image of Israel. Israel is killing civilians, children, journalists, paramedics, attacking hospitals, creating all sorts of justifications and propaganda videos in order to justify their attacks. I think there is awakening, there is a growing support for the Palestinian cause. The South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu said, if you are neutral of situations of injustice, then you would choose the side of the oppressor. I think we are seeing people mobilizing, taking action, journalists, influencers, photojournalists, they are saying that we will never be silenced, and whatever Israel does will not intimidate us, because Israel threatened some journalists and published their names on Israeli media, accusing them of siding with Hamas. Families of journalists, while the Alhelou family was killed, 60 journalists killed so far, as Yara mentioned, and also the social media accounts have been censored, restricted. I myself received the threats from Meta, from Zionists.
Why?
I think Israel is annoyed from revealing the truth. Such videos and the support for the Palestinian cause and people taken to the platforms of digital platforms, I think this shows that Israel doesn't want the truth to get out. Journalists, they take the risk. They rely on different means and methods in order to convey the truth. And they say that we journalists are the voice of the voiceless.
Now, you are a journalist yourself, so you understand how important technology is. Let's just take a look at that issue. Internet providers and cell phone companies in Palestine rely heavily on Israeli infrastructure, and Gaza has faced multiple communication shutdowns since this conflict began. So Israel has been accused of using this as a weapon of war. Now, during the campaign, internet cables and cell towers have been routinely targeted. Israel imposed a complete internet shutdown for 34 hours as troops entered Gaza. Even when internet services are restored, access remains at 15% or less of its usual capacity. And during 3 internet blackouts, Paltel, the largest internet provider in the Palestinian territories, lost complete connectivity. What does that do to a journalist trying to get his or her story out?
This will make it difficult to cover the stories and be connected to the outside world. This shows that Israel is still in full control of Gaza's airspace, territorial waters, and border crossings. When Israel decides to cut the grid, this means it wants to impose a media blackout. But journalists, they defy all odds, and they started relying on eSIM cards. They try to circumvent algorithm on social media. They shoot these videos and they seize the chance as soon as they get internet and upload them.
Extraordinary stuff, Ramzy, the resilience and the kind of technical know-how of these Gazan journalists managing to do everything they're doing when the odds are so heavily stacked against them, even from the technical side of things.
Absolutely. I have 2 journalists working for us here at the Palestine Chronicle. One of them has disappeared. I don't want to mention his name on the air, but we wish for his safety and the safety of his family, but it's been weeks since we got in touch with him. The other is in the Nusayrat refugee camp, and I don't know how he does it. They bombed his family's home. They killed over 17 members of his family, yet somehow he reemerges a few hours later, a day later, and he files more stories, more reports conveying the suffering, the pain, and the sumud, the resilience of the people of Gaza. And he doesn't know that he is actually the story. He thinks he's telling other people's stories. Essentially, he is telling his own story, and that is the story of the Palestinian people. Another journalist, Anas Sharif, is quite popular, a young kid in Gaza who has really helped fill so much of the missing content as a result of the Israeli restrictions. He was at the Indonesian hospital yesterday. Israel tried to fire at him repeatedly, yet he would still go out in order for him to get some sort of internet connection, file a story, tell a few words, run back to the hospital, back and forth. I don't think Anas is going to be winning the Pulitzer Prize anytime soon, but he and his colleagues, as you all know, are the true heroes of journalism as of today.
Well, let's bring in Nizar Sadawi, who joins us now in Gaza. Nizar is a very recognizable face for our viewers, TRT World Correspondent. He has not stopped for 2 months now. Extraordinary work, Nizar. Thank you for your time and for joining us on Roundtable. How important is it getting the message out, getting the information out from Gaza for you?
It's been quite a nightmare, let me put it this way, for everyone, not just for me here, but for residents, for journalists, and it doesn't get easier for anyone here, because we know, of course, that the power outages are something that everyone here in Gaza suffers from. We haven't had electricity for weeks now. Basically, 3 days after this ongoing war started on October 7th, we lost electricity in Gaza. Now, for us as journalists, international media outlets, we used to operate using our generators, for example, but then came the fuel crisis, meaning that we couldn't even operate. So we started to go and get stationed in hospitals, for example. And the main issue here is that even hospitals are running out of fuel. I mean, recently, just last week, the first shipment of fuel entered Gaza for the first time. It was nearly 40 days without a single drop of fuel in Gaza. The hospitals, many of them actually went out of service due to the power outages, due to the lack of medicine, due to many things. And it doesn't, actually, it's not that different for us as journalists. And what made things worse is that there were 4 times when there was absolutely no communications here in Gaza. We were absolutely cut off from the outside world, meaning we couldn't make or receive phone calls. We didn't have any internet connection. And to be honest, we had to get creative. I mean, we used the satellite. I'm sure many people of our audience remember that. We used the SNG, the satellite service itself, and we went on air and we started to record messages saying that this is Nizar from Gaza. We cannot make phone calls. We don't have internet. If you're getting this message, please record it. Something happened today. There are airstrikes everywhere. And then we just started to give the news, recorded messages. We call it as lives. Every top of the hour, every top of an hour, we used to do the same thing until the internet connection was restored, until communications were restored. And by the way, even though a few days ago a shipment of fuel, 17,000 liters to be precise, entered for the telecommunication company services here in Gaza. I mean, the services were restored, obviously, but it's not perfect. It's not even working properly. I mean, it takes sometimes more than an hour for one person to make a regular phone call, evident by the fact you've been trying to call me for the past, I think, 30 minutes or so, and eventually we had some poor internet connection, so we used an alternative app on my phone. This isn't a regular phone call. That's how terrible the situation is. And I can barely hear you, to be honest, but I can predict the question, meaning that I listen to the first 2 or 3 words of the question and I, use my brain, analyze the situation and make an expectation and hope or pray that I'm right.
Thank you, Nizar. So we've actually lost our connection to Nizar in Gaza, and that just illustrates the problem, Yousef, isn't it, about getting information out? This guy is a professional television journalist, and he's having all of these problems being put in his way.
It is a reflection of the telecommunications problems, of course, but they don't give up. They will keep trying, And Palestinian journalists, I have to say, including myself, I've been reporting on the ground. We lost contact with our families for weeks being away. We worried about their safety. Imagine they left their comfort zone. There are no offices to go to. They are like internally displaced, like among the people. Imagine if they want to, have some privacy. Imagine, they lack the food. They lack in very difficult circumstances. And I saw some videos. It's really astonishing that, sometimes they have to walk on foot to go and report. Sometimes they rely on animal-pulled carts. They defy all odds. And I think...
But they keep getting the message out.
Indeed, of course. They never give up.
Ramzy, that's just a really good insight into the kind of daily struggle, being a journalist, being a newsmaker in Gaza, what life is like.
It is, but it's also kind of an illustration of the character of the Palestinian in Gaza and elsewhere. But in Gaza in particular, during these difficult times, they are extremely resourceful people. Whatever Israel throws at them, they somehow find a way to deal with it, no matter how agonizing, no matter how difficult and painful, and find a way to fight back. And this has been going on in every possible way. I mean, I don't think there is a point in which a Palestinian journalist or a Palestinian mother or a father or a child that is going to say, we give up, because it turned out that victory and defeat and the lack of trying is a personal decision. It's not created by circumstances. It is the decision that the individual himself makes. And we see this with your correspondent in Gaza. We see this with millions of Palestinians in Gaza and elsewhere. They have decided that they are going to carry on regardless of the hardships, regardless of the difficulty of the situation, and no matter what Israel does.
Yara, a lot of journalists watching will be familiar with not getting a signal or perhaps running low on battery, but the kind of struggles and difficulties put in the way of journalists in Gaza are just at the extreme end of everything we do to get a message out.
Yes, it's true. It's definitely true. What they're going through on the ground is incomparable to the challenges we face on the receiving end of their messages. So when we see a video, we are also faced with a separate, completely different, incomparable challenge, really, of verifying the truth, telling the audience who sees this why they should believe our story or what we're telling them, this message that we're getting out from Gaza. And that's also difficult in the sense that we need to prove, usually we focus on three main tenets. So they're the source, the date, and the location.
Yousef, the word influencer nowadays carries all sorts of connotations, doesn't it? We think of people promoting themselves, a lifestyle, a brand. Palestinian journalists and citizen journalists getting material out of Gaza, this is just next level stuff, isn't it?
It is unprecedented because they feel they have a role to play. Influencers, Palestinians on the ground, they say we must use all platforms available in order to convey the message. Everyone is a citizen journalist in Gaza. Anyone who's got a smartphone, they can film, record, send to the world. He mentioned, Dr. Ramzy, he mentioned that Anas al-Sharif, I was watching his video last night when the Indonesian hospital was attacked. He said he was sending his, please send this message to the world. They're sending their final messages. And I saw an influencer, she got killed by Israel. So many other people documented the moments of their own death. They have a duty, those influencers, photojournalists, and even Mataz Azaza, the photojournalist who's got now around 15 million, I think they refuse to be used. They also try to cover the humanitarian touch, because when we see positive videos like influencer or a journalist smiles amongst children, carrying the cats and distributing the aid, this is good also to show the good sign in the midst of this agony.
Ramzy, how proud does it make you feel when you see a young journalist like Nizar working so hard to get the truth out to the world?
Immensely. I mean, there is something personal about all of this, because my generation, we have fought very, very hard to reclaim the narrative of the Palestinian people. And we have insisted in every possible platform that Palestinians need to be the storytellers of their own story, and they have to be at the heart and the core of any narrative concerning Palestine. And despite of all these tragedies that we are seeing in Gaza, as a Palestinian, as a Gazan, as a journalist, when I see people like Nizar and hundreds like him out there reclaiming that role, it feels like, in a sense, from an intellectual point of view, it feels like mission accomplished. It's the future is the future of the Palestinian narrative, and they are in charge of this narrative.
Yara, that's a good point, isn't it? Resilience. The Palestinian people, no matter what is thrown at them, they keep going, resilient to the core. And it's really epitomized in people like Nizar Sadawi, who just keep going every single day to get the news out.
100%. And that's something we see with all of these journalists on the ground, including Nizar. A lot of the journalists, I mentioned someone who was killed, but there's also people who've lost family, who've lost their homes, and they still, despite all of the difficulties that we've mentioned, the communication blackouts, the difficulty getting service, using donkey carts to get to where they need to, or walking, the videos are still getting out there, right? And we're still seeing them. And that really speaks to that.
Yousef, thank you, and to all our panel today. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me and Brady and all of the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.